everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday, it's December 13th, 2022. 5 NBA games to talk about here on today's podcast. 7 and 5. It looks like it's going to be a pretty solid week. Here to talk some hoops. We got TastefulTides on the podcast with us today. Tim, what's happening, my friend?
Not much, Stevie. Just kind of, sweating this late night basketball action, sweating some football. There's a lot going on tonight, and I'm excited to break down the slate with you. It's a small slate, but there's quite a few stars on the slate, and some really, I think, fun games to at least watch as a fan of basketball. And it's gonna be, I'm pretty excited for the slate.
It is a really interesting slate, and it can't be worse than like the injury news that we had on Monday's slate. What a gosh, I don't even know the way to describe Monday's slate, but hey, that one's in the books. Really hoping that we get some points from Lillard and Anthony Edwards to kind of slam home Monday night slate. But we're gonna get into some hoops. You kind of nailed it. Like, this slate, it's kind of fun for a 5-game slate. Only one team on a back-to-back, which is nice, and it's Boston, so it'd be really interesting to see what they do. That game's like kicking off as we're starting to record the podcast. So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. So let's get into it. We get started here with Sacramento at Philadelphia. This game has a 228 total, 227.5 some books. Most books have it as Philly minus 5.5. So we'll go with a 228 minus 5.5 line for Philadelphia. Fox is questionable. Len is out. Maxey is out. Philadelphia pretty healthy as far as like what we've been kind of expecting from them recently. If Fox doesn't play, that's going to open up some potential news. And this is the lone 7:00 game, so it's really the biggest news piece of this game. So, what do you like here for the Kings?
Yeah, listening to that line from Vegas that you just said, the -5, -5.5, I think they're assuming that Fox is going to play. I think that line would be a lot higher. He did practice today, so I think he's going to play, and I actually think that's a good thing for this game from a DFS perspective. Maybe not on this side of the game, but on the other side. I'm not too keen on paying all the way up to Sabonis. Fox would probably be a pretty decent contrarian play at 8,300, but the spot is not that great. If I want any kind of exposure to this game, I think it's going to be Keegan Murray, just because the minutes and the price are so good. But really not that interested in this side, really.
Yeah, Fox would have to be out for me to start getting interested in the Kings. Mitchell, Sabonis definitely averages a lot of fantasy points per minute. Malik Monk at 5,100 would be a solid play. If we got news that like Fox wasn't going to play, still only played a few minutes. Was it 23 minutes the other night? Shot 3 of 15. So you're hoping for a little bit better shooting from Monk. Kevin Huerter, he's going to chuck. He's 5,500. He is someone that has 6 to 7x type of upside at 5,500. So I don't hate that. Don't mind the Murray call. His minutes seem very rotational here recently. So if we're going to get 27 to 32 minutes most nights from Keegan Murray, he definitely has some upside to pay that off. So a lot more interest in this game if Fox sits. If Fox plays, probably not playing Fox. 8,300, you could make an argument for playing Fox in that scenario, but he really hasn't had like a blow-up game. Just kind of playing role player to Sabonis. Sabonis at 9,400 on a 5-game slate. Raw points are going to matter, but with that said, Giannis, Embiid, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Curry, Tatum, Harden, Williamson, it's just I don't know where I rank Sabonis in that like kind of mix. So
I didn't want to bury the lead, Stevie, but yeah, there's so many other pay up options that I'd rather get to. But yeah, if Fox were to be out, then I think Herter would be my favorite out of the bunch because he can just put up points in so many different ways. Yeah, I mean, I think Fox is gonna play, but yeah, I'm not going up to Sabonis. I highly doubt I'm getting up to Fox because there's just the studs on this slate there's just plenty of them.
let's go to the Philadelphia side of this game. What do you like here for the 76ers?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm hoping Fox does play because this game shouldn't necessarily be a blowout. Where if Fox sits, it will be, and I want to get all the minutes from Embiid that I can get. This guy is just on fire right now, and I don't think this is the matchup where he slows down. So as long as this game can stay somewhat competitive, I see no reason to fade him. I mean, he's just, he's putting up 69, 59, 62, 76 fantasy points. It's just he's on a roll right now, and I don't think there's anything's going to stop him in this matchup.
For what it's worth, I think he plays. I really do think Fox plays.
Yeah, I do too.
So, I mean, he returned to practice Monday. I think all signs kind of point to him playing. Yeah, I don't know. Philadelphia side, I feel like if you're playing Embiid and Harden, you're kind of hoping the game stays close. So where am I getting my exposure to Sacramento? Harden at 9,700. Him and Embiid, they have similar type of ceilings. Embiid's probably a little bit higher nowadays than Harden ceiling-wise when they're both active. They both have really an incredible upside. So I think I would. Man, it's so tough. I think I would rank Embiid over Anthony Davis and Sabonis as like the top center play on the slate. So that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, and then
what about Giannis though?
You play him at power forward.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Looking at the slate as a whole, kind of looking at the studs as a whole, my initial thought is Curry's my favorite. Was my initial thought because I feel like if that game stays close, Curry's just going to have a monster game.
Yeah.
But it's really hard not to love Zion at 9,500 when you're getting the discount.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you brought him up because he was going to be kind of my sneaky stud, but maybe he's not going to be that sneaky. But I look at all these MVP candidates for $2,000 more, and then I'm sitting there looking at Zion. I'm like, this guy is just insane right now, and he's kind of the guy that I was really wanting to play also.
Yeah. For me, I really think like it's going to be tough not to get a lot of exposure to Zion, and it really at the end of the day is going to depend on whether or not like people from Boston sit or not in the game against the Lakers. So
yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, you could take some shots on Melton. He's shown some really solid upside. I don't think like a lot of people will be playing him on this slate. And I mean, he's shown that like he has no problem with putting up 7 to 10 3-pointers a night. And, when he catches fire, like he did the other night against the Lakers and made, 67% or 66% or whatever it was, shooting like 12 of them. Like, listen, those are the nights that he's going to crush. So. All right, we got Golden State.
I like that call quite a bit. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, you're good. Golden State at Milwaukee taking on the Bucks. 227.5 total in this game. The Bucks a 3.5-point favorite. This is going to be a good basketball game. As far as injury news goes, Wiggins is still out. Drew Holiday is questionable, which could be a huge upgrade for Curry if Drew wasn't going to play in this one. So, I mean, talking about the Golden State side first, I kind of already said it. I feel like if this game stays close, we're going to see a big night from Curry. Is that enough? Is that enough at 10-8? It's tough to say. He shot lights out against Boston. He was filling the stat sheet and put up 53. Is 53 enough at 10-8 on a slate, like a 5-game slate? Usually, yes. On this slate, there's so many studs that it's tough. It really is. Clay's price has come up to 6,800. I still like it. I still think he is someone that has 7x type of upside. Jordan Poole probably in play. I don't know if he's my favorite. He should continue to get over 30 minutes with Wiggins out. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at for Golden State. Those three guys. I mean, Draymond's probable. He's 6K. This is a type of game where I feel like him and Giannis could get after each other, and like we could see a decent game. I mean, with Draymond probable, I think we're out of the Kuminga business and we're out of the Looney business. So I really think you're kind of looking at the three studs here from Golden State and Draymond in a large field tournament at 5K.
Yeah, so I don't think 53, 55 out of Curry is going to be enough on this slate. That's just my opinion. Just with all the other, huge studs that we have, I think you're going to need to get well over 60 out of these, 10, 8, 11K guys. My favorite play in this game or on this side is definitely going to be Clay. I think he's got serious 50-plus upside in this game. I think he will not garner very much ownership either. So I really like that he has that kind of ceiling at what I would expect to be extremely low ownership. And I agree with you with Draymond. This feels like this could be a Draymond game, so I don't mind going a little two-man here with like Draymond and Clay on the same team.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going Curry.
Right.
So, I mean, the second question of this game is, who are we running it back with on the Milwaukee Bucks? And, I mean, the easy answer is just saying Giannis, but Giannis has not scored over 70 since October 26th. And like, he is consistently putting up 50 to 60 plus point games. He's back under 12K. It's just he really hasn't had that like monster 70 plus point ceiling. And fading Giannis has been like beautiful here for the last month or so. What are your thoughts here on Milwaukee?
It's just that, Golden State plays at the third fastest pace in the whole NBA. And so this is a pretty big pace up spot for Milwaukee. And that kind of just makes me really want to play Giannis. And it's a close spread. He should get his full allotment of minutes. I think that people will look at his game logs and be like, he hasn't put up a huge game. So I really like him. But do I like him more than Embiid? Do I like him more than some of the other guys in the late game? I'm not sure quite yet. I'm leaning Embiid right now, but I think my second choice would be Giannis.
My question is if Drew sits.
Yeah, if that changes a lot.
Yeah.
If Drew sits, then I think you'd almost have to, that would put Giannis to number one. I mean, that makes a big difference for this whole game.
Yeah, it does. You wouldn't think it does, but it does. It makes it. I mean, everyone would think it does. I didn't mean it that way. I just meant like in the large portion of the slate, Giannis is someone who I think it was, I looked it up earlier. I think it was like 280 minutes or so. A slight usage bump at 1.7. Give him the pace bump. He's averaging 1.7 fantasy points per minute. the upside and the ceiling is there. It really hasn't been there at all. So it's still tough. We got a question in YouTube chat. Yeezy wants to know, do we think Middleton sits? As of right now, the NBA injury report has him as probable with the ankle injury. It was an ankle sprain. So it's tough, right? Because you have to kind of go by what the injury report says it is the night before. But usually, those are team submitted. So I'm going to assume right now Middleton plays. Minutes wise, we saw him get up to around 30. I would expect him to get back into that 30 range. He's 6K. Don't hate it. Don't love it. If Drew sits, I think Pat Connaughton at 3,400 is an excellent tournament play. I could see him kind of closing over like Javon Carter. And I think Javon Carter would get the ownership over him, especially if Drew sits. So usage and fantasy point per minute, like those guys aren't great. I would try to take the ownership with Connaughton over Carter.
Don't forget about Bobby Portis too. I think that this could end up being a really good Bobby Portis game, especially if this is a real fast up and down close game. And he's only 5,600. And if Holiday sits, that's just more opportunity for him. Where even if he's, I always prefer Portis coming off the bench. So, let him just run that second unit. I think he's really gonna be a pretty sneaky play for a large field tournament. And you need to find guys like that on a short slate. Like we might not have what we saw tonight. We might not have that, all this value opening up. So you have to kind of take chances on these guys who are kind of in the mid range coming off the bench. And Portis is that type of player that I'd want.
All right, we got Phoenix at Houston. This game is currently at 226. Phoenix Suns, a 5.5-point favorites on the Phoenix side. Devin Booker out. Cam Johnson out. Washington out. And then on the Houston side, Tate remains out. But obviously, some of the biggest news that we have on the slate is no Devin Booker. He's 9,300. Phoenix is kind of cheap. They're kind of cheap, and they're going to be a team, I think, that gets pretty good ownership. Like Chris Paul is 6,200, Bridges is 6,100. Yeah, I mean Payne is 5,200. Like these guys are cheap. They're going to be popular. It's really just kind of figuring out how to approach it here with no Cam Johnson. I mean, he's listed as out right now, so assume that he doesn't play. And no Devin Booker. I mean, we run Court IQ, and it's telling us like Cameron Payne, 1.3 fantasy points per minute. DeAndre Ayton, almost 1.5 fantasy points per minute. But a lot of that, like minutes, were without Chris Paul. So it gets like it's a sticky situation because, I mean, does Ayton crush as much with Chris Paul on the floor? Maybe. And it's Houston. We were talking about like ranking centers, and here we go. We got a guy that's a little bit cheaper than those top end guys that have a ton of upside. And I mean, this game in general is just fantastic.
I don't know how you get away from Chris Paul. I know he's not the same guy, but I mean, this matchup is too good. The minutes are going to be there. He's going to be doing everything. I see no reason, even in a large field setting, to fade him. Like it's going to be tough to get away from Chris Paul at that price. That's a really, really bad price. I think we should just take advantage of it, move on. A player like Cameron Payne, he's not shooting guard eligible anymore, which kind of is good and bad. It's not as easy to play him because you have to, either use up your guard or utility spot on him. Ayton is, I mean, I think he's another play, but I think I might prioritize other centers, but I certainly would not blame anybody if they wanted to put him in any kind of setting that they wanted to play. But I would say Chris Paul is the top priority on the slate.
Yes. I mean, waiting to see like news on Boston and Fox and Drew, but as of right now, as we're recording, yeah, I mean Chris Paul's too cheap. He's too cheap. At the end of the day, he's just too cheap. So, ton of interest in Paul. I have a lot of interest in Bridges in this game as well. I think he's someone that could potentially just kind of go overlooked. So, I mean, 3 or 4 Phoenix players. Like I said, Ayton is fantastic. So, I don't think I'd play more than 3.
Yeah,
Maybe 4. I think 3 is kind of where you're going to find your optimal.
I think 4 is a stretch.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your
three's good.
question, Ricky.
Yeah.
Richie. I don't know why I said Ricky. Richie. Houston side of this game, do not forget to run it back with the Houston side of this game. If you're going to be playing 2 or 3 Phoenix Suns, play some of these Houston guys, whether it be Kevin Porter Jr., whether it be Jalen Green, whether it be Sengun. Sengun's 5,800. You could play 2 centers. So if you want to go with another big type of center, I mean, definitely get some exposure to Sengun. Don't forget about the Houston side of this game. It's not the juiciest spot ever, but if you're going to be playing all these guys from the other side of this game, run it back. It will make your lineups more unique.
I kind of want to know who Chris Paul is guarding, right? Whether it be Kevin Porter or Jalen Green.
I would assume it's going to be Green, size-wise. Right.
Yeah, that's what I'd assume too. So I guess that I would prefer getting to KPJ over the 2, even though I think Jalen is, probably a better player at this point. But I don't want to go up against Chris Paul necessarily. So I think that Kevin Porter would be my priority. Sengun is fine. His price seems like there's just pretty soft pricing in some of these games today. Like they priced up the high end studs pretty well, but like this mid range seems pretty soft throughout the slate. So I think that's something to take advantage of for the today's slate. And then KJ Martin, I think, might be an interesting play also.
I was trying to quickly pull up. I couldn't remember if Cam Payne is a good defender or not. Like, we know how bad Houston is guarding the guards, but I couldn't remember if Cameron Payne was a good defender or not. I have to look that up tomorrow and see. But yeah, I'm just more curious than anything else. Who was the last person you said? I'm sorry.
KJ Martin.
Yeah. 20 to 22 minutes. If he could get some upside at 3,800, he definitely has.
Eric, and then of course there's Eric Gordon who plays 30 minutes a game, but it's still Eric Gordon. Like he's not, he's kind of washed up a bit. But I'm just trying to get some kind of cheap run back here. That's kind of what my goal is, because I don't really know if I want to play Green, and Porter's kind of expensive. I mean he's priced correctly, I guess. Not expensive, but I feel like he's appropriately priced. So I'm trying to find kind of a cheaper run back.
I mean, it could be a sloppier game. So like a Jabari Smith could get steals and blocks. Yeah. He's 53.
Yeah.
Power forward eligibility. So I mean, I would play him before I'd go down to like those 3K guys.
That's a good point.
And more upside.
Yeah, and he's getting steady minutes over 34 minutes a game. So yeah, I think that's a better play.
Have you ever like had peanut M&Ms and like have peanuts stuck? It's the most annoying thing. Like in it, I've been trying to do it and just can't get it. Someone asked in chat if we think Damian Lee totally was saving him for the morning grind game. But yes, he's one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate. I think he gets a lot of run in this game. So there you go. That's why I didn't bring him up. Thanks, Richie. Thanks. Moving on. I'm still going to use him on the morning grind game. And if Tim uses him, I'll just mute his mic. New Orleans at Utah is where we go next. This game, 232.5 total. The Pelicans a 2-point favorite. Some books have it as 1.5. BetMGM is that some book, and FanDuel has it at -2.5. So I mean, anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5. New Orleans. I mean, go on BetMGM right now if you're listening to this podcast live and just take that -1.5. That line seems ridiculous. Love New Orleans -1.5 in this game.
That just seems so fishy, doesn't it? I was like, I mean, I don't know. Something's up with this game.
It seems really fishy. But anyway, on the New Orleans side, Ingram's out. On the Utah side, Sexton's out. We know. I mean, gosh, I don't even like. The only reason that I would be like, oh, I don't think this like line hits is if like Zion sits, and there's no like news or anything like that. So yeah, this is a juicy game. We kind of already talked about like Zion at 9,500 being one of the best point per dollar plays on the slate. CJ McCollum finally had the night. He finally shot the basketball well. 54% from the field the other night, put up 29 extra points, 49 fantasy points. Valanciunas' minutes are still kind of all over the place, and it's really hard to kind of lock him into anything. Trey Murphy's price is kind of right. Fantastic matchup for New Orleans. Utah is not a good defensive team. Utah plays really fast. I mean, this is a fantastic spot for New Orleans. I love Zion in this game. Like I said, he's one of my favorite plays, but I'm definitely going to be getting some CJ McCollum exposure as well.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see a little bit of a theme here. Is like you've got guys like CJ, you guys got like Zion, Chris Paul, Cameron Payne, Ayton. Kind of this little bit more expensive end of the mid range. Not these premier studs, and you can build like these really, really nice teams without even playing anybody over 10K. That's kind of, I'm starting to build a lineup right now with just some Suns and some Pelicans just to see what I can get. And it's really nice. It's really easy to do. So that could be, I mean, if we don't end up getting a ton of value, it doesn't end up being like a stars and scrubs type slate. You might not have to force in any high end stud because you got such a loaded kind of balanced build already.
Yeah, I mean, we've already talked about some value plays. You got Najee Marshall for New Orleans as well. With Ingram out, he's been over that 24-minute mark in each of the last 4 games. For some reason, they're not pricing him up. He's actually come down after having good games, so he's going to be a chalky value play. I mean, I definitely don't mind taking some tournament shots on him in this one. I'm a little concerned about like if his ownership gets too high. Larry Nance is coming off of a couple good games as well. I mean, Nance is like forcing Valanciunas off the floor. And I mean, foul trouble is also forcing Valanciunas off the floor. But hear me out on this really quick. Do we really think Valanciunas is going to guard Olynyk in this game? Or is this a game where we could potentially see like Nance play more to match up with Kelly O more? So maybe we should be looking at Nance at 4,400 being a little bit more mobile than Valanciunas. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past like Larry Nance to end up getting like another 30-minute game here tonight at 4,400 and continuing to crush. I mean, again, this game's fantastic. If you get this game right, you're gonna succeed on this slate.
Yeah, and I agree with that call about Larry Nance. It's just is the coach actually going to do that? Like that makes a ton of sense. What you're saying.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready.
Right.
Give me my clipboard.
Right. But yeah, it's I can see you out there with a clipboard, yelling at the guys from the bench. I could see that. That might be a new role for you.
I've looked at so much data over the years. Like, put me in, coach. I'm ready. So.
But yeah, I'm sure Valanciunas is going to play, his normal minutes unless he gets into foul trouble. I would like to say that you're right. I don't necessarily want to bet on that though, but I would love to play Larry Nance in this game. I hope that's what they do, and I hope that you're right, but I don't know.
I mean, the other side of this game, the Utah side, Markkanen expected back. He's cheap for like his potential ceiling. He's 7,900. I mean, they played once already this year. He put up 56 fantasy points in that game. So like he has the ceiling. Like you were talking about, we could get 2 to 4 of these like higher mid-range type plays, stay out of those studs, and just kind of make our lineups a little different that way. So I don't hate playing Markkanen at 7,900. I'm a little concerned about like Clarkson's shot attempts. You know, they live in that like 15 to 18 range when Markkanen's playing on average. So we probably don't see that. Yeah, I mean, the Utah side is good too. You know, Sexton being out, definitely. Mike Conley came back the other night and played 25 minutes. Maybe he plays a few extra minutes in this game as well. And they rested him over the weekend. So, yeah, I mean, if you're not thinking he plays a ton of minutes, Alexander Walker could be in that like role to get some minutes. He's played really well here recently, you know, especially in the game that Sexton and Conley sat. What are your thoughts here on Utah?
Yeah, I would love to play Lauri Markkanen as part of like a game stat type play, like do a CJ McCollum, Zion, Lauri Markkanen type build. Kelly Olynyk, I think, is kind of interesting. I'd even go with even Vanderbilt maybe. So I think that you kind of want to. I think they're good kind of mix and match pieces if you're building multiple teams to sprinkle in some of these guys. I don't have a ton of conviction necessarily about who my favorite would be, but I think you're going to want a piece of this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think this whole game, you want to circle this game. I think this game has a ton of potential. I think it has a ton of upside. And again, if you are in a state where you can bet and you're listening to the podcast live, I really like Pelicans minus 105, minus 1.5 on BetMGM. I think that line is a little too low. We finish out the slate with Boston at LA taking on the Lakers, 233.5 total, the highest total on the slate. Celtics a 3.5 point favorite. It will be a back-to-back for the Celtics. They ran out their normal lineup on Monday night. Again, that game is just kind of getting kicked off, so we'll have to wait and see if anything comes out of that game. I mean, they've definitely rested some guys on back-to-backs this year, so wouldn't be shocked if that happens. We do know Al Horford's not going to play. He won't be back until Friday, the team said, so we know we'll be without Al Horford. I mean, initial thoughts on this Boston team, assuming everyone plays, and then if you want to talk about scenarios where people are out, but I feel like if Tatum sits, you play Brown. If Brown sits, you play Tatum. If Brown and Tatum sit, you play all the Marcus Smart, Brogdon, White that you can handle. I mean, there's I just summed up if people sit type of scenario. So talk to me as everyone's playing here, Tim.
The issue for me is if everyone's playing, I don't have a ton of interest because as amazing as Tatum is, as amazing as Jaylen Brown is, and on such a short slate, I can name 4, 5, 6 better players that I think are better in the 11K range, that are better in the 9K range. So I'm not that thrilled with this situation with Boston. I'm not jumping to the window to play, put my money on these guys. So if anything, I would rather, if everybody plays, I would like to take some cheaper shots on some salary saving type guys like a Derek White or a Malcolm Brogdon as I need them in certain lineups. But I'm really not prioritizing Tatum or Brown, assuming that they're both in.
Yeah, I mean, if everyone plays, I'm kind of with you. I don't think it is the best. I mean, the thing is, like, when the Lakers have been healthy this season, they've actually been a pretty decent defensive team. Boston ranks inside the top 10 defensive rating. And with the Boston team being on like the second half of the back-to-back, I mean, the Lakers play at the fastest pace in the NBA. So, I mean, could this game get a little bit sloppier from the Boston side? Maybe. So, if everyone plays, I think my favorite play would be Jaylen Brown from Boston. If I'm playing someone from Boston, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I also, Blake Griffin. I forgot to mention him on the podcast yesterday. He's been playing some really interesting minutes.
I thought about mentioning him, but I wasn't brave enough to mention him, Stevie.
Yeah, well, listen, I've I've done crazier things, but I mean, he drew the start on Monday night. I was a little shocked by that. So
I just wish he was power. I just wish he was power forward center.
I know. What are you doing to us?
I hate wasting. I hate wasting his center spot on him. That's why I can't play him. That's why I didn't say anything about him. If he was power forward center, I would have said something. But I can't. I just can't waste the center spot on him.
We should all email DraftKings and be like, you have him listed as a power forward on DK Live. Why is he a center on your website? Let's go to the Lakers side of this game. I mean, Anthony Davis has the ceiling to break any slate, and he has been playing fantastic. He looks fantastic when he's out there and he's healthy. I mean, LeBron has been consistent. He's a lot cheaper than Anthony Davis in this spot. Tough defensive matchup, but I mean, the Lakers are really going to try to push the pace in this game. So, I mean, I could see like LeBron or Anthony Davis kind of benefiting from that. But, I mean, the cheap options, I feel like we're going to have better cheap options. Schroeder is playing minutes. He's just not shooting. He's kind of in this role, and he seems very happy with the role that he's in right now. I mean, the same with like Patrick Beverley. His upside is in his defense. I mean, if I'm playing the Lakers, maybe this game is just one of those games where if you're building 20 teams, you get 3 or 4 like Tatum, LeBron, Tatum, Anthony Davis, Jalen, LeBron, Jalen type of stacks. Because, I mean, you're just hoping that you get the right piece right kind of game. But, I mean, overall, I mean, there were so many good spots in this slate. I just don't see myself ending up on these guys.
Nothing sticks out other than AD is just a monster, but this is a horrible matchup. Celtics are the best defensive team, best overall team in the NBA, in my opinion. It's just not, this is not a spot that I want to attack. This is not a spot where I want to roster a player who's 11-1 when I could roster Embiid against the Kings for 11-7, or Giannis, or Curry, Zion for cheaper. This game really for me is my least favorite out of the bunch for DFS purposes. I can't wait to watch it, but as a resident of New England, I can't wait to watch this game. But I don't think I'll be playing anyone in DFS from it.
Let's play the morning grind game, and then we will get out of here. Favorite play under 5,000 to go 7x. Who do you got today?
Under 5,000 to go 7x. I'll go Keegan Murray.
I like that. I mean, I already kind of said this. I love Najee Marshall at 3,700. I think he has the upside and the ceiling to go 7x at 3,700. So, already mentioned it. Over 8K to go under 5x. Who is your bust today?
LeBron. Oh no, he's over. Oh, under 8K.
No, over 8K. Over 8K.
Over 8K, LeBron.
Yeah. It's like meant to be like your expensive bust type of play.
Yeah, LeBron.
Man, there's so many good plays today. I'm gonna go Sabonis, but I think he gets there. I just don't see myself ending up on him, so I'm gonna go Sabonis. He's been playing fantastic for what it's worth. Favorite 6x play? Price doesn't matter.
All right, so the right answer is Chris Paul, but I'm going to go Zion.
Yeah, I like it. I'm gonna go a little off the board and say DeAndre Ayton. He's someone that I think I'm gonna end up on a lot on the slate. So
I mean, the Suns tomorrow are so that game is so nice.
Let's get weird. GVP play of the day. Who do you got? Who's getting weird today?
I don't know how weird he's gonna be, but I like him to be optimal. Is Draymond?
All right. I mean, it's a 5-game slate, so you don't have to be super weird. So I'm gonna go Larry Nance Jr. My philosophy does not change. I could see this game going a little bit smaller. I mean, they're not married to Valanciunas at all. So I'm going to go Larry Nance Jr., picking up 28 minutes. I'm going to hit the minutes on the dot. 28 minutes, 41 fantasy points. He's going to be really close to 10x. So
I like it.
Any bets standing out to you here the night before?
I think even on the second night of back-to-back, I think Celtics handled the Lakers pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, I already kind of New Orleans -1.5 seems like a line you want to jump all over in this one. So
someone's got to be sitting. Vegas must know something in that game.
Yeah, I mean they're on the road.
Yeah,
maybe why, but I got nothing else. I mean the morning grind game, sleeper fantasy plays. I will post in the Grinders chat. There's just not a lot of lines out right now. I was going to do something with DeAndre Ayton, but I couldn't really find something that I wanted to pair it with here night before. There's just not a lot. So I'm going to post that in the squad chat if you haven't already. Promo code Grinders gets you 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And you get put in the chat. If you're already a member, join by just clicking the link in the RotoGrinders podcast description. It's like rotogrinders.com/sleeper or sleeper.com/ I should know this, but I don't. So just go to the description of the podcast, click the bottom, and then you can join the squad that way. I'm posting stuff in there all the time. So yeah, there's a little button that says join the RG squad. Just click that. So hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday. We'll be back Wednesday talking more hoops. Tim, thanks for joining us. We'll see you all again tomorrow.